Alright, so this will be a video tutorial on introduction to Illustrator, which is a vector-based image manipulation and composition software. If you're familiar with Photoshop, it has a very similar interface, but it is, as I said, vector-based instead of pixel-based, which is Photoshop is pixel-based. So what that allows and why architects like Illustrator a little better is it all your lines keep their fidelity at different scales. So this will show you the basics of some drawing tools and line weight manipulation tools and ways of working with your drawings, importing drawings from Rhino and creating compositions on your artboards. So the first thing we need to do is open a new file. So we'll just go up to File New, and it will bring up a dialog box where you can put in a file name. You can choose the size, the orientation, and all things here. And these are all editable later. So if you don't know any of it yet, that's okay. Just hit OK, and you are given a canvas, or as an artboard, as they're called in Illustrator. So I want to go over a couple of tools that are up here. Just the basic line tool, which will draw lines. So as you see, these are different than other lines that you might have seen in Photoshop. It has these anchor points, which allow you to adjust them really easily. The pointer here will move the entire line, or this one you can select one of the points and rotate that around to different angles, and it's not pixelating the line at all. So some points about the line weights. If you're selecting any line, it's up here. It's called the stroke of the line, so that will change the thickness of any of your lines. And then over here, there's some additional menu items over here. You can change the colors of lines. And then down here is the stroke. But what this menu here does is the option for dash lines. So we'll use a lot of dash lines, often in architectural drawings, to represent different parts of our building proposals. So it's important to know how to make those dash lines. This one you might want for different scales of drawings. You might want them to be different dash gap ratios. So you just will change that by adjusting the the number here, and it will adjust your lines as you see fit. So you can put 8 points, for example, all the way across there. Sorry, have to have that line selected, of course. And it will adjust your lines. There's also some shapes here that might be useful sometimes. The rectangle, and to get a circle, you just use the ellipse, or to get a square, you just use the rectangle. And while drawing it, you hold the shift, and it will draw that perfect circle. If you don't hold the shift, it will draw an ellipse. So now that we have these shapes, we can talk about the fill color. So over here, we've talked about the stroke color, but this other fill right now is empty. We can change that easily by making it black, by hitting the black there. It's filled in that canvas. Or while that shape is highlighted, we can go over here and change to whatever color we like on this gradient. Okay. So now that we have several different objects on here, we want to look at the layer button down here. So this is, again, if you're familiar with Photoshop, it has a similar kind of feel that all of the objects that we've drawn so far are on this one layer. You can create additional layers, and you can separate objects onto different layers. But to do that, you highlight the objects that you want to move, and then see that this little box here popped up, and you can just drag that box to the layer that you want it to be on, and now those objects are on layer 2, and these objects are on layer 1. All right. All right, so a couple more things about manipulating objects in Illustrator. The first is matching properties. So if we wanted to change these circles to have the same line weight as this, it's a little different than say how you match properties in AutoCAD. In Illustrator, first you select the object that you want to change, and then you use this eyedropper tool to get the properties of the object you want to change to. You want to match. So again, select that object first, get the eyedropper, and select the one you want it to match. So that's a little faster way if you have an object that you want to match other lines with. Another one is transparency. So we might want to use, I guess while I have this highlighted, we can go over just transforming. Simply scaling is grabbing onto this box. Rotating is by the side. There's additional features if you again are holding Shift. It'll scale the object uniformly, and if you hold Shift while rotating, it will rotate to locked to 45-degree segments. So anyway, if we had a fill on this and we wanted to make it more transparent, we would do that by this tool here, the transparency tool here, and we actually can change the transparency of that object. So there's another difference than Illustrator. The transparency is by objects in Illustrator as opposed to the layers in Photoshop. So I wanted to go over a quick Rhino to Illustrator workflow, and with both images and drawings. So if we go over to Rhino, we have a very simple scene of a surface and a cube that's casting its shadows on that surface. We can export a quick rendering. Go to this blue sphere and just click that and render. It's very, very quick way to save an image that you don't need it to be a large format or large resolution. So we just save that, and then if we wanted to save a drawing version of that, what you will do is select all of the objects that you want to export, and then go to File, Export Selected, and you can save those actually as an Adobe Illustrator document. So let me find where I put those, and here's my one that I saved previously, the box from Rhino. So now we can go back to our Illustrator. I'll take this opportunity to talk about the artboard itself. So there's a button over here called Artboard Tool, which will both allow you to adjust the size of your artboard and also add additional sheets to your document. So there's this little new artboard icon up here. Click that, and it will give you a new basically a new sheet of paper that you can do some additional work on, or you can move objects that were over there to over here and work on both compositions at the same time. So let's open that first, that Illustrator file that we saved from Rhino, and we can. So this is now line objects as if we had drawn it in Rhino. So we can, or excuse me, in Illustrator, we can now do all of those things that we were just learning about with all of these lines, exactly as if it was we drew them in Illustrator. So different types of line weights to represent this object. And we can also then group all of these lines together, so that when we select them, they keep them all together. And then we can actually copy and paste those into this other artboard that we had previously made, and scale them and do. I don't think that went uniformly. Let's undo that. So holding Shift to scale it uniformly. All right, and then to bring in that image, the rendering that we saved, we go to File and then Place, and then find that JPEG that we saved and say Place, and you can place that on your composition board as well. All right. Then whenever we're done laying out, we want to save our document, our print to a PDF. So we just go to File, Print, and save the print. Change the printer to Adobe PDF. We can change this. Just have sheet 2 to print, and that is the kind of documents that we will submit.